Welcome to Leverage to Build Wealth, where we discuss and educate entrepreneurs, mortgage, real estate, and financial service professionals on how to leverage tools and other people's experience to truly leverage to build wealth to create the lifestyle and legacy you desire. Hello, welcome to today's episode of Leverage to Build Wealth. Today we've got Alan Christian, who has his own team, the Alan Christian Mortgage Team with Summit Lending. And he's based in Roswell, Georgia, but licensed in multiple different states. Anyone who's been in the mortgage space knows this man. He is a pillar of just genuine connection. He's a strength to not just the industry, but I'll just say to humanity. You know, he's a strong Christian who loves connecting people and helping people sincerely from his core. And the reason why I really wanted to have Alan on is because any interactions that people have with him, you can see this very, very easily online, are authentic, they're real, and you know that you matter. And in a world right now where there's so much conflict and weirdness going on, these shining lights shine brighter. And I wanted to be able to help showcase Alan. Alan, please tell us about yourself, your career background, but more so about the man, and then we'll let this grow organically for our meeting. Thank you very much, sir.
Man, I thank you for having me here. Just super honored. Love what you're doing. When I got the message from you, like, oh, how just this is great. And it's just the thing I love about it is just, and what I love about doing podcasts, it's just two guys having a conversation, and anybody else that watches it, you know, the goal is you feel like you're sitting at the table at the campsite or whatever. We're just kind of talking together. So, yeah. You know, Georgia born and bred, dad's a retired dentist and also Army officer. I bleed red, white, and blue. Love America. Love being from the South. I got into real estate out of college. I was a realtor for a very short time, then got out. Then when I bought my first house, it was a great experience. And I was working for a smaller company at the time, actually in the gun industry, which is kind of crazy. Really? But I was getting ready to make a transition, and a friend of mine said, Alan, you're great with people. You're great with numbers. You ought to look at the industry. Got hired at a place in Atlanta, one of the top companies here. Got trained there, was there for a couple of years, phenomenal experience, and then went out on my own. And also a real estate investor. I'm more kind of on that, you know, when we use the term financial advisor, mortgage advisor, mortgages are just one piece of the portfolio. And I look at it on a much, much bigger scale as far as what we do. But, you know, after I've been in the industry now 25 years, and it's kind of hard to believe that. But I remember early on saying, you know, I want to do something to where I'm that guy in the community that everybody goes to. They know he's the guy for anything you need. He's the trusted friend, neighbor. You see him over for dinner, you do whatever, almost like George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. And son of a gun, if I blinked and all of a sudden I feel that. And it's not about the money. I'm a capitalist. Let's don't get me wrong. No. I'm in business to make money, but the money issue is not what matters. I'm also a farmer, and I plant seeds and I plant into different fields, and I don't know where it's going to come up. But the pool of my life right now, and it has been for years, but it's gotten even more so as I've gotten, you know, through much more experiences of life, is how important each person around us really, really is. The guy sitting 3 feet away that sometimes is invisible. He's lived his life for 5 days and maybe nobody's ever said hello to him, and just letting people know that you are important and you matter. And maybe my little small world of how I live my life on a day-to-day basis when I meet people, or as I'm trying to share or make maybe a bigger platform kind of like this, or just share some of my fun stories of people I meet. You wonder, does it make a difference? And I didn't think it did, but it actually is making a small difference. And I hope to grow that a little bit. But it boils down to each person actually are special in their own way. So that's kind of where it is right now.
You know, I really appreciate you sharing that, Alan. And I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge, you know, I think it's a big part of your core beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
when you have a strong faith in the master, and you really understand how people can change. And
we are not defined by our past.
no, not at all. And we're always one decision away from greatness.
Yes.
And no matter how no matter what someone's going through negatively, as a matter of fact, I often find that going through the negative is when you see God the brightest.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes that's how it is. And it's interesting, as you mentioned, going and connecting with people and you're not knowing. Someone may be going through hell, figuratively, through their life for a variety of different reasons.
Yep.
Unbeknownst to you, they may be a top performer on the outside. On the window dressing, everything looks great. Hallmark card, Hallmark special, everything looks great. But internally, for whatever reason, and those reasons can vary as the grands of the sea, but you're connecting, you're reaching out to them and just giving them that grace and that love and just loving on people. It's one thing you mentioned all the time in your posts. I just want to love on people. And it's amazing how that is a force multiplier. You mentioned farmer, right? And not knowing, here's the thing, you plant corn, you're going to grab corn. A tomato is not going to come from a corn seed. But the thing is you don't know, like you can plant something in the perfect soil, give it the best water, and it's got the best light, and it's still damn thing still die. You're like,
right.
And you can have something that's on rocky ground, rocky soil, yet blossom. And whenever I think of different people who have impact in my life, whether they're closely associated with me or they're from distance, and I see them on Facebook or different other aspects, you can tell the difference between fake, still dressing, people shaking their butts on TikTok,
totally
influencing people, and then you can see people who are really connecting and they get it. And Alan, that's one thing that stood out about you. Even though I don't know you personally, I know you through watching, and I think that that God's able to communicate and recognize, and people who have discernment can tell if something is real or not. And especially in a world right now where there is so much fake is just sad, quite honestly, how people are more apt to care about showing pictures of their hands with a Rolex or driving a car. I think that's what really matters. It's like, wow, you really, now don't get me wrong, the whole intent of this podcast is called Leverage to Build Wealth, but wealth is more than just assets, and I have seen people who have a tremendous amount of assets, know some billionaires who just don't get it, or those who do, who do really well, and they realize, hey, this is just a tool to be able to help others. And
I'm a steward. I'm just a steward of it.
Exactly.
And it's just it's a tool to bless other people around me.
Yeah. Well, Alan, I want to dig deeper on you, because, a lot of people, they don't, especially being teenagers and going through life, there's usually reasons that, things tweak. You mentioned your father. I know from seeing online, you mentioned that your father passed, it meant a lot to you. I remember seeing those posts on Facebook and your tributes to him. What kind of people in your life, that in your past that had an impact on you where you're like, you know what? I want to do that. I see that example. I want to have that. I want to be that. Could you share and honor some of those people in your life that have helped you become who you choose to be?
Wow. Gosh. My dad was real hard. I mean, I'd say he was a hard ass. But it's almost like the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. Now that he's passed away, the relationship was not great because he was just hard from that generation. But the things he taught me by being tough, I didn't realize how important it was till now. My grandmother was probably the rock in my faith. From the time I was a little kid, going to see her, going to church, or bringing the Bible out, praying, teaching me about money at a little kid. I would show up for the weekend. She'd give me a dime or a nickel when I would earn stuff throughout the weekend. And on Sunday, she'd pull it out. We'd talk about the offering. We'd talk about the tithe. We talk about what I'm going to invest and then what I'm going to enjoy and share with people. And that was a huge point. I had a band director. I played in the band that I ended up being drum major, and I was a stupid, egotistical kid in high school, but the guy believed in me. And that was probably the biggest thing. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself at the time. I had a weightlifting coach that I was in the band. I wasn't on the football team. God, I can't believe this. And he saw something in me, my strength, my determination, my drive, whatever. And from that, I was on the U.S. national weightlifting team. And I remember back when I went to the Olympic Festival, I saw another one of the coaches from my high school, and he remembered me. And the coach is now passed. I wish I could have gone back to him and said, you know what? You don't know the 4 or 5 things you said to me when I was in 9th grade. It changed my life. So you don't know where one person, one relationship, one conversation can make a difference. And we all put on this face like we've got the world by the tail, but you know what? We don't. And I have found that out as I have shared my vulnerabilities in my life, and because things are great and some things are not going great. And when I found out, when I started sharing the large percentages of guys that have got, it's the mask that we wear, the smile, the front we put on, but inside we're struggling. And that's the part of, man, I fill my heart by filling other people's heart first. And I love on others because I was loved first. So, I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, I hear you, but I know there's more.
Yeah. Keep going.
I think there's more. What I've noticed in my observations.
Yep.
That those who love the most need more love. Whenever I was in the military, I served for 6 years. I'm very proud.
Yep.
I was a chaplain.
Thank you for your service. Yep.
I was a chaplain assistant, and I was different than a normal soldier. And anyone who's been in the military, they'll be free to acknowledge chaplains and chaplain assistants are not the normal. We have
Correct.
a couple. You'll have a couple of the shining stars on a couple different areas where you'll get some like gung ho super soldiers, all hua on everything. I was not. I was going to be a family psychologist and be a chaplain within that, and use faith as the avenue of helping people who are hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I served a mission for my church when I was 19 for 2 years, and I had an opportunity to go in the military. And I'm like, man, there's so many of these heroes doing incredible things, and I wanted to be to contribute. And as I was looking at different military jobs, I was like, the chaplain assistant role was perfect for me at the time, because one part of it, you're the bodyguard for a chaplain, and you're to make sure that he's taken care of, because the chaplain's not allowed to carry a weapon. And so you get all this extra advanced training on how to be a bodyguard and protect the chaplain. So that was fun. All the combative trainings, all that stuff was extra fun. But I love the aspect of connecting and counseling with soldiers, because I had that kind of background a little bit before I went into the military. And my job was a connector. My job was to go through, when I go to a battalion or go anywhere, my job was to walk around and hope that God would bring me to someone to find out where they're hurting and then just talk with them. And so it was known in the brigade and the different battalions, like, hey, if Bussino was coming by, just let him be, let him do his thing. And if he's asking for one of your soldiers to talk, they had to let him go to talk.
Got it.
I earned a reputation because I was helping a couple of people. I helped a couple of colonels and their families on a personal level. So they knew what I did and how I did it. So whenever they saw me go through the area, they kind of knew, hey, good is happening in my company right now. So just let him do his thing. Let's see what happens. And
right.
I had to go by that internal feeling, that internal gauge, and say, hey, what's going on? And you'd see sometimes these soldiers that are like the guys, the machos, and they're laughing, or, everything on the outside looks fine. But then every now and then, I feel like you need to talk to him because there's something that's not right. He needs to
so it just hit me as looking at you and looking in my background. You see that deer right there?
Yeah.
When I first started hunting, I'd always wanted to be able to go hunt. When I first got in the mortgage industry, I became friends with a guy, and he kept inviting me, hey, man, you want to go hunting? You want to go hunting? And I didn't take him for real. So I got a little property in Tennessee. And one of the other guys says, man, you ought to go. He's got a pretty nice place up there. So I went up. Turns out they had like 20,000 acres. And that's, like they had a full-time caretaker, very wealthy family. I had no idea. So he lives in Atlanta. He had a 4,000 acre property, full-time caretaker there. He had an offshore fishing boat down in Florida. I used to go fishing with him. Looking from the outside, he had everything by the tail. Our initial connection was his dad fought in Korea, military. Our initial connection was whose dad was the worst, who was the meanest, most selfish, most hard ass. Every week, that's what we talked about. And I looked at him going, man, I wish I was him. He's got it. From the outside, he had it all. And he called me on Saturday at 5:00, and we talked periodically, not all the time. Guys do their own stuff. Knew everybody, had all these different groups of friends.
Yeah.
Called me Friday about 5:00. We chatted for just a few minutes. And the next day I got a phone call from a buddy named Clifford. I hadn't talked to Clifford in 7 years.
Oh, wow.
He said, Al, I need you to call me. It's about Philip. He hung himself at our hunting cabin. That's where that deer came from. And I went to the funeral, and he had, a group of friends that were hunting, then a group of friends in Florida for fishing, a group of friends in town, but they never really connected with each other. So there's different pockets. And I show up, and all of a sudden, everybody's like, who's this Alan Christian guy? I'm like, what? And we were friends, but I didn't think it was like that big a deal. They're like, no, you understand. You were his best friend. He talked about you all the time.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know it. And part of it was maybe survivor's guilt. And then a little bit later, I had gone through a marriage intensive with my wife. It was about a 3-day hardcore, cried my eyes, found out stuff about myself I didn't know. And a buddy at church came up to me, and he had been to the intensive. So when people ask, hey, man, how you doing? Fine. Oh, fine. That's a 4-letter word, and it's a dirty 4-letter word.
It is. When I hear that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know. So when people ask me, how are you doing? I can't answer that. What part of my life do you want to know? And I can't answer it in 60 seconds. I want any more. But this guy came up to me, and he knew we'd been struggling, knew I'd been in the intensive. And anyway, we saw him at church regularly. Came up, said in the parking lot, said, hey, Alan, how are you? And I jumped into my, hey, man, everything's great. Work, I'm just killing it. And this is awesome. And the kids are involved in this and that. And, my wife's doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I got finished with my typical male macho ego. Everything's fine. And I'm killing
protective
it.
shield.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And he just looked at me and paused and said, "It's not what I asked you, Alan.
Good man.
How are you?" And I started crying right there because he broke through that veil.
Yeah.
And then I was in a men's group, and I went to breakfast intentionally with like 9 of the 11 guys in my men's group. And I had joined towards the tail end of these guys, but I had known them for years at church. And I had some struggles in my life. And the guy that invited me, I asked him, "How well do you know everybody?" He says, "Oh, I know him really well." He says, "No, how well?" Then he said, "Well, you know what? I've known him for 8 years, but we show up for our men's group. We do our 5-minute, how are you, or how are the kids, how's the weekend? We do our stuff, then we go to work." And that was about the surface of all of them. So I went to breakfast with them, and I sat down and asked the typical, "How are you?" They said, "Oh, my wife's good. My kids are good. My career's good. Everything's great." And then I said, "Well, hey, I'm having some marital issues. My daughter's got cancer. My father-in-law's dying of blah, blah." I mean, I unloaded what I phrase real, raw, and honest. Yes. And when I got done, 7 of the 9 guys, 7 of the 9 looked at me and said, "Oh, wow. Let me tell you what's really going on. Pornography, affairs, drug problems, embezzlement, secrets, and on the verge, I mean, of falling apart." And I'm like, and I asked them, "How many people know this?" "You." Like, I just asked you the question. And that rocked me to the freaking core.
Yes.
And when I started sharing, and granted, it's got to be a safe place to do it, but I also found out sometimes a safe place is a total stranger that you meet in a grocery store or a restaurant or on the side of the road helping them change a tire. For some reason, there's a difference in a skill and a talent and a gift. I have taught myself how to connect with people by reading books and books and books. I've taught myself. I've learned empathy because I've walked through the pain of life. I've seen enough now. My friend died. I have a suicide note on my mantle from a friend that attempted suicide a year ago. He dropped it off at my house with a box of stuff for me. And it just made me intentional to realize no matter what we think somebody's going through or what and I see that they're killing it and life is wonderful. You don't know if today's the day they're going to take their life. You don't know if today's the day their mom died an hour. You just don't know. And I knew how bad I was hurting at a certain point in my life and how some people reached out, called me, random folks out of the blue, said, "Man, I don't know why, but I just had an urge to call you. Hadn't talked to you in a year."
Yeah.
I'm like, today was the day I needed your call. Turned off work and I took an hour. So it made me be so much more intentional to say, if I can be a light in somebody's life today, maybe I'm the only person that says, "Man, it's great to see you. I don't even know you. I love your hair, love your shirt, love your hat. Can I open the door for you? Oh, can I get this for you?" If I can make a difference in somebody's life, that's what I want to do. And, we're not defined by our past, what we've done in the past, who we are, none of us are perfect by any means, but there's still greatness in each of us. And sometimes it just takes one person to say, "Hey, I see you. I see you. I recognize you." I put my phone down, I put everything down, and for 60 seconds, and I have, for whatever reason, it's a gift. I can meet a total stranger now. And I think it's because they feel my heart of being totally humbled with them, that I don't care. I joke that I know the stripper and the drug dealer and the preacher and the judge, and I know everybody in between. And why is it that I can connect with every one of them? Because I have had friends. All of those people have been my friend. So I can relate from every avenue. And I thank God for this, the good phases of my life and the bad, because it's taught me to realize how important and how special everybody is. So my purpose each day, I need to make money, but the money thing is the money monkey's off my back for that, because I have found out that from a business perspective, when I was, you got to make so many calls a day, you got to do all these business sales tactics. And then I realized, wait a minute, I went fishing yesterday, or I went to this small little town and pulled off on the highway and grabbed lunch. And the couple at the table next to me, I said hello to, they said hey back. We talked during lunch, small town. Then they invited me to come over for dinner.
Oh, wow.
And I went. And there were, 18 people there from their family. And during that meeting, come to find out one of the couples was getting married. I wound up doing the loan for them. The couple that invited me were older, did a reverse mortgage for them. Another couple was moving to Florida. I did a loan there. Then I refer, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is not sales. This is not. So I have fully embraced in the peace that has come by, it's not about the sales. It's about planting seeds in people's lives. And yeah, I'm in the mortgage business. I'm in the real estate business. But I found out if I can love on you and you can find out who I am and what I stand for, what I believe in, that's going to be attractive enough for you to say, no, wait a minute, what else do you do, Alan? And then when I say, oh, you're in the mortgage business or you're in this, it's a complete flip. I wish I had truly embraced it 20 years ago, 25, things you don't know when you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's been life-changing, and it's a part of my mission to share that.
Well, that is wonderful. And I think, you mentioned earlier, you're in your third phase of life. And I'd like to hear you talk about that a little bit later. I do feel that there are phases of our maturity.
Yes.
Of where we, the scriptures mentioned, whenever I was a boy, I played with toys, but now I'm a man, and I know a lot of men who still play with their toys, and that's all they focus on, but there's a difference. There's nothing wrong with toys. I love toys,
Oh, yeah.
It's get more expensive and funner
Me
and
too.
more horsepower. Don't get me wrong. I
love my tractor.
I love powerful tools.
Yes.
But there is a difference when, you mentioned like different tactics. Don't get me wrong. I love talking to people about different. There's a time and place for everything. There's the seasons for everything.
Yep.
Everything has its place. But there becomes a point where the tool is just a tool. When you look at a canvas and you have Michelangelo behind it.
Michelangelo.
Yeah, well, there we go. Look at did the brush make the art? Did the canvas make the art? Was it the best high-end canvas in paints that made that? No, it was the artist. And
right.
As the artist matures, so does the art. And so I look at our careers, as we're master craftsmen. And some people, you have to start as a journeyman. You have to start somewhere, and I understand that and respect that as well. But my father was a master craftsman. He was a mechanic for well over 40 years. And
wow.
his career as a craft and a skill and how he honed in on things. And so one of the things I love about talking to someone who's been in the industry for quite some time, and they look at their life as a craft, their perspective on life is a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
And their value is much greater, on what they do and what they bring to the table. And I would venture to say, because part of my internal things, I've been going through some things with my Heavenly Father and asking, because everyone's going through times and seasons for whatever those are for them. And I'm like, I want to be a better instrument for my Father. I want to be better for myself, my family, but I want to be able to connect with people more. I want to have a life filled with more purpose. Don't get me wrong, transactions are important. They're nice to get things, done.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to be able to go into a room like it was, in other aspects, and be able to just fill the room and be able to know who can I help, however that may be. And the more I realize that, the more I have felt convicted that I need to acknowledge God in my life more. And so, and even in Honest Channel. And so,
yes.
To that point, God will utilize our strengths and our weaknesses to not only for our good, for the good of others. And Alan, I think you're a wonderful example of one who who does the best with what he has to do the best with what God needs him to do.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
We never know what someone's struggles are and what's at the core of those. But I do freely acknowledge that the random compliments from a stranger, in my role in the military, I helped a lot of people when it came to suicide prevention. I was the one teaching the suicide prevention classes and all this stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so when I got calls late at night, I knew what they were for, and
the 3 a.m. pal. Are you my 3 a.m. person? Do you have that person? Yeah.
And I've learned to recognize that someone who's a life of the party may be happy celebrating something monumental that happened that day or a large accomplishment. But one text and one phone call, one snide remark can make it all come crashing down. I have seen that too many times.
Yep.
War heroes, Purple Hearts, Silver Stars. And in the military world, the soldier.
Yep.
Cry on my shoulder like my 5-year-old because of a snide comment.
I feel sorry for the grown men that have never had another masculine, real male cry in front of them.
Yeah.
To acknowledge how humble they are and the pain that they're really living in, because until you've had it or experienced it, most men won't do that.
Yeah.
And it takes a strong man to do that.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of really strong examples in that. And so whenever I see your post, and today for about an hour and a half, I was scrolling through your feed. I was looking for really cool ideas for questions and questions from observations, not just, hey, I have a fixed set of questions, because that's not how I roll it. I very dynamic in that regard. But as I was going through, in addition to seeing that prick of a rooster, Fred, that if he was my rooster, and I've had multiples, I would have launched to like a football, coming at me. But when I see your interactions, you can make anything a life lesson to share. From talking about your chickens and going to the zoo, visiting people in a restaurant, being on the flight.
Oh yeah, that was such a good one.
Anything a powerful moment. And that is an art, my friend, that I want to grow into even more so. And my kids get annoyed by me sometimes. They're like, Dad, everything's a lesson. I'm like, wait, but it is.
I'll tell you, I used to get put down for that. Everything's not a lesson. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. You may not like it, but you're going to hear a 30-second message because you don't get it now. But 5 years from now, my son started basic training in ROTC in college, and he sent me a message, and how easy it was and everything. The pain everybody else was going through. Dad, you taught me all that stuff 10 years ago. I was crying inside. It was a life lesson that I got put down for. And it is. Everything can be a lesson, because if somebody else can learn through what we've gone through to benefit them, take 30 seconds and share it.
That's cool. On a different note, when we're talking before we started, I was curious about you had this reel where you had a fireman's hat. And I'm you're a volunteer firefighter or something? I wasn't sure. And
I wish they still had it, because I would.
You expressed something that I thought was really neat. And as soon as you expressed what it was, all these ideas kind of flooded through my mind for things that I can do in my community.
Okay.
On what you were sharing. It's amazing how that works, right? It's like, now that the door's open, God can share. Like, God can't fill an empty cup. We have to, dump it out, open the door so he can come in. And you shared something. I thought that was really neat. So with that, I want to ask you the same question I did at the very beginning, and you respond accordingly. However you fit. But I saw this reel where you're on top of a roof, you're wearing a fireman's hat. What's going on? What's your role with that? And why did you do it?
Uh, the Roswell Citizens Fire Academy is a 10-week long program that gives you a look behind the scenes of what the firefighters do in our community. And I've always respected what they do. Our public servants that are, I mean, they sign their life away. In essence, the same thing as the military, to walk into a burning house to save me. And I wanted to see what they did. So we got to see all the leadership, all of the different roles. But the main reason I did that was because it's the community that I live in, and I want to know as much as I can about the community, but more importantly, about the people that are there behind the scenes. And it was the thing that was shocking is my sister was staying with me during that 10-week course, and we had to call the paramedics in, and the guys showed up, and I knew several of them because of that academy and just meeting folks in the community. And it made me a better citizen, made me a better American. It made me appreciate my community and appreciate the people more that are serving us around us. Sometimes you feel like you live in a little bubble, but it was so much better than I had ever thought it would be. I learned so much, but the camaraderie that they have together, but more importantly, it just made my community feel more real, and I was more a part of it. Was that kind of what, I mean, I don't even remember what I told you. I don't even know.
You also mentioned how you did that with the police.
Oh, I did. I sure did. I did. The police, the police have a citizens academy as well. And I've done the same thing. And I love what they do. And same as the military, I did not serve, but my dad did. And somebody they've devoted their life to public service, and truly some of them are in harm's way, and they're willing to walk into a house to save my life, or come, I want you on that wall. I need you on that wall. I want to know who these people are, and I want to appreciate them, and I appreciate them more so because of it.
Now I want to state some of my observations. I know we got like 15 more minutes, but still, I want to point out some observations for those who are listening to this. Like, why the hell, man? I don't got time for that. I want people to really understand where you're playing 4D chess, people are playing Connect 4. Oh, and you're doing it because you want to, not because it's a strategic maneuver. And again, going to the topic of times and seasons, there are people who are grinding and they're just trying to make ends meet, and they're like, I don't see how I can have time for that. And I get that. And there's times and seasons, and you're at a time in your life where you're looking for things that are more fulfilling, and because where you're looking for them, you see them. And ironically, if you had like the I don't want to sound condescending, but the lesser mentality of trying to make the ends meet, you wouldn't see the opportunities that bring abundance.
Right.
And they build real wealth, both not just financially, but everything. I think wealth goes in so many different directions with that. But when you're talking about how it was wonderful to connect and know these people and know I'm part of this community and to build help. And right now, in a world in our industry where everyone is thumping their chest about who I am on social media and the social media currency and all this, and I get it, there's a place for it because people can't go to you if they don't know what you do. And one of your best friends, Jason Frazier, is one of the great advocates of understanding of how
he's the man.
That's important, right? And I've had him on the show and why that's important. But he's also very big to talk about that's only a small percentage of what you're posting, right? People got to know what to do. But the thing is people care about who you are. And this is where you are the best shining example that I see in my feed, of knowing who you are. So when they need what you do professionally,
right,
you're the obvious choice. But what's interesting is right now, because the pie is shrinking, the table manners are changing, and it comes to our industry, those who understand the power of truly connecting with people on a level that goes beyond transactions. And they understand in their perspective somehow how we're all connected at some point. There's a master plan, whether or not we understand it or believe it, there is one. There's a God, whether or not someone believes in him or not.
Yep.
And that there are things at play, influences, energy at play, whether or not you want to acknowledge it. And your head in the sand doesn't make it go away, but those who have a way of tapping into and recognizing, connecting, will have a life that is more fulfilling and more abundant, and ironically, more opportunities magnetized to you. You mentioned attracting. Alan, you're a magnetizing individual. There are things that, and it's amazing how in this time of the world's history, how I think individuals like yourselves and what I'm aspiring to be better at will be more magnetizing as the world goes on. And from the people who are more selfish and more pounding their chest,
yep,
there will be a more of a divide. And I just wanted to thank you and for being that example. Not that you're perfect by any stretch. No one is.
No way.
I don't put that level
Yep.
of social expectations on anybody, but I think you're a tremendous example of one trying to do the best he can with what God gives them. And I think that is wonderful. And I love seeing and hearing of the byproduct of that, the success that comes from that. But for me, I recognize that's the byproduct.
Right.
The source is who you are. And that's a message that I really want to convey. And I want to give you the last moments to share, what you feel is on your heart of how people can do that, who may be trying to figure out, how do I find that internal voice for themselves? Any advice that you may have for anyone who's like, what, I hear this is good, but I don't know how. What do I do to do this? I want you to have the final thoughts on that, but also how people, when you're done with that, how they can reach out to you. So anyone who wants to take advantage of your services for what you do, because they love who you are. I want them to be able to know how to reach out to you as well. But with that, I'm going to give you the final say on everything. Please, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just does my heart. I mean, because I've got areas of my life that are great. I've got areas of my life that are completely falling apart. I've just gone through the hardest last probably year of my life without question, which made me withdraw into a dark spot for a while, but realize God can use the bruises that we've gone through still for His glory, and there's still a great message that can come from any of the stuff that we go through. It doesn't define the next chapter of your life. Some people they just want to be transactional. I mean, that is just who they are. They don't like people. That's just what they do. And they have a business model. They're churning and burning. That is not who I am. It's not what I want to do. I pray every day, Lord, put me in front of 5 different people today that I can make an influence or an impact on. Even if it's just saying hello somewhere, put me in front of people. And it is truly as simple as, there's a book called Acres of Diamonds. And in essence, all of the treasures and everything that you need are right in your backyard, and you don't even know it. It's just being intentional where you are. I mean, I hate to say, put your phone down. I carry my phone everywhere. I take pictures with everybody. Be intentional with people around you. In our world today, a lot of folks are withdrawn. They're, for whatever reason, society's gotten a lot of people in that field, but you'll be surprised. Just simply share it. Walk by strangers. I challenge folks, give 3 strangers total compliments. I don't care what it is. Just engage. Look at somebody, give them a sincere compliment about anything, the shirt, the shoes, their hair, sincere, and be willing. And the funny thing is, most of my connections are about 3 minutes, maybe 5 at the most. But if you can truly look at somebody and shut the world down and look directly at them and give them a sincere compliment, and then maybe ask them about it, take it maybe one step farther the next, and just recognize them and make them feel important. People are starving for attention. They want the most important thing they hear is their name. Ask their name, use their name 3 or 4 times, and truly take eyes off of yourself and put it on somebody else and make them feel important and special. Just your daily walk, wherever it is, even if it's on the phone, take a moment at the end and give somebody, just thank you for your time. Thanks for being nice to me. Thanks for being cool, whatever it is. Because what you'll find is you'll also fill your heart in the process. Give out 5 compliments a day, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting some things back for you. And take the eyes off of yourself and just truly love on other people. And business-wise, it's a long-term play. If I was starving and I needed to get a transaction or whatever tomorrow, would I be doing some things potentially a little bit different or humping it or working differently? Probably. But I also realize where my treasure comes from and where my food comes from and who's taking care of me. And I've still got a responsibility to make a difference each day with people around me. And I'm planting seeds in fields. And when I truly let go, and the parable of sowing and reaping in the fields and the farms, when you truly grasp that and realize that I'm planting the seed right here and I'm fertilizing here, and I don't understand, that field may come in totally dry, but across the streets where the harvest is coming from, you don't know where that one friendship takes place. And 3 years later, they call you back and say, you know what? I met you in the store. My mom was with us. She was dying and you didn't know it. And you took 5 minutes to talk to her, make her feel special. And mom dies and they remember that. And then they call you because they're getting ready to move. And then another person gets ready to move. And then you end up doing 15 transactions over the next 5 years with that one family. And you can look back and say, what did I do for that? Did I do 20 cold calls to an office and I do blah, blah, blah? Or did I take 4 minutes at a restaurant or a gas station or somewhere and talk to them as they were helping mom come in the door? I held the door for her and told her she looked beautiful. And I could tell she was dying. But I took a moment to make her feel special. And she talked about that all day to the kids. 3 years later, did I get it then when all those transactions came in, or did I get it 3 years before? Or did I get it from planting another seed somewhere else? So try to make it, just think about others around you and how do I make somebody else feel special, fill their bucket, and then tell me how you feel at the end of the day.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? Anyone who knows you knows that, when you're planting seeds, it's not just so you can get gain, from others. You're providing value, regardless. And that's who you are. How can people reach out to you, Alan, if they want to move forward and take care of or take advantage of your services, sir? I'm on everything I do is public. Go to my Facebook page, Alan Christian. I'm in Roswell, Georgia. I've got an Instagram page. Most of it's on Facebook now. I've got a YouTube channel I'm growing, and I'm working on a book right now related to connections. But if you pull me up on Facebook, if you want to find out who I am, just pull up there, and about every other post, you'll see something with all my contact information. Just reach out to me. Thank you, Alan. Definitely consider you a friend now, more than just someone I look up to online. This is real. I look forward towards the opportunity I get to see you in person. We'll find each other on some network meeting that we'll have. Buddy, I'm coming to Arizona soon, and you and I are breaking bread. Yeah, we'll find some ways to make some cool things happen. Yep, awesome, my friend. Thank you very much, and everyone, hit him up and follow him. You will not be disappointed. Thank you for watching and listening in to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can strengthen our mission and get the message out to others on how to leverage to build wealth. Who's next?